Hey, everybody. Welcome back. If you're joining me, you know it's a Thursday. You know it's 2 p.m. Eastern because that's always when we are on with Bold Leaders in Learning. I'm delighted to have a guest with me who I met. We were talking about this. We met on LinkedIn through various connections and have now been following one another's work. But I have today with me Nicole Lembo, who's the manager of academic programs at JetBlue. So Nicole, thanks for taking the time to talk live here.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Definitely. Well, I certainly want to have folks get a little bit better understanding of your own background, which is interesting. And so I'd love to just have you tell a little bit more about yourself. And then from there, tell us more about what JetBlue is doing and your JetBlue Scholars Program.
Sure. So my background is not a straight line, which I think is probably the only reason anyone is interested in it. But it's I really took a while to figure out what was meaningful to me in terms of work. But really did a few years in project management in the litigation space, which is very different. And really liked that, but wanted to find a little bit more meaning in the work. And I had some experience from my undergrad days in supporting students with disabilities in terms of accommodations. So actually went back to school for that to do higher education counseling, focusing on typically underrepresented populations. So students with disabilities being one, and ended up at a couple of different schools doing that, supporting students with disabilities. Absolutely loved it. Working with students was like a high. It was so great. But I found that I did miss the business side of the project management. So I saw an opportunity come up with JetBlue. Our founder, Bonnie Simi, who now runs JetBlue Technology Ventures, had this vision of starting an education program that was kind of unbundling tuition reimbursement. We knew tuition reimbursement wasn't going to work for us at JetBlue. So when I saw that pop up, I took a chance. She said, I can hire you as a temp if you want to move across the country and give it a shot. And I said, absolutely. So I think normally I'm not much of a risk taker, but I just got the sense that this was going to work if I could help make it work. So that's how JetBlue Scholars was born in mid 2015. And now we're 5 years in and close to 400 degrees conferred at this point, which is pretty exciting. And I have a permanent job now, so that's even more exciting. But yeah, really it was JetBlue kind of put together the two pieces of my career that I loved the most, which was supporting students and helping bridge that educational access gap and, but still being able to have accountability and move things a little bit quicker than traditional higher education moves and whatnot. So here we are. I started as a temp and now I run the team, and it's a dream.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, you're an exemplar of the bold leaders framing here, right? To have moved across the country for a temp job, that is a bold move, and it obviously has worked out really well. So you certainly knew what you were after, and I think obviously combined your passion and some of your experience, but also just a really cool story about how JetBlue has embraced this. And I have to say, I want you to talk more about what the program does and, some of the partners you have involved in it. But I have to say, I'm a big flyer. I fly all the time, probably 3 million miles under my belt across airlines, and, haven't flown since March 2nd. Obviously the airline industry has just, been, pummeled by this pandemic. And yet, you guys are still moving forward with this JetBlue Scholars Program. It really is impressive. I think a lot of folks who have been following the education as a benefit movement with employers, they were, skeptical, like, hey, we're going to go into this pandemic. Are these programs really still going to be held up? And certainly, it hasn't been easy. I know some budgets have been trimmed, et cetera. But, I'm just really impressed with the commitment that JetBlue has made in the midst of all the different challenges in front of you. So anyway, kudos and congratulations, and great credit to the organization that's still going.
It is. And it's something I'm incredibly proud of, because I think when all of the mayhem around, that resulted from COVID-19 happened, airlines got hit early and have not had a break since.
Yeah.
And to see JetBlue, airlines in general operate on extremely tight margins, right? I think we've talked about this, Brandon. The price of fuel goes up by 5 cents, all hell breaks loose. So, to be a program that is, I think in general, considered a nice to have and not a need to have, we don't keep the lights on per se at JetBlue. But to see an unwavering commitment from our senior leadership to reinvest in crew members, and to know that in the short term, cutting the budget for this program might save us a few dollars, but in the long term, it's going to hurt. I think that is a testament to our culture, and very much a testament of living the values. The values are not lip service. The values are very real. So we feel, my whole team is absolutely incredible. And we felt relieved and a little bit surprised, but not shocked that thankfully our department is being protected. Because thankfully we mean a lot to the crew members that we serve. And that's the best endorsement that you can ask for from a programming standpoint is, people want to keep you around.
Yeah, that's for sure. So tell us a little bit more about the program. I think folks probably have a general idea of what it might entail, but would love to just hear more about some of your specific goals. And then would love to hear some of the stories. I know one of the things that you really get most excited about is talking about the impact of it. And so I'm sure you've got a number of interesting examples to share. So would love to hear some of that as well.
Yes, I do get very fired up about all of these topics. So if I start going a little sideways, feel free to rein me back in. But the JetBlue Scholars Program is designed to help our crew members. That's what we call employees. So a crew member is not just someone who works on an airplane; it's anyone employed by JetBlue. But our crew members with some college and no degree. Our goal is to bridge that gap in an affordable way that gets barriers removed. So, there's all kinds of literature about the things that adult earners face. Our crew members are no different. The cost is always a barrier. Time is always a barrier. Knowing what the heck to do and how to get started is bigger than anything, I think. If someone's like, well, I went to community college for a couple of years and I have some training from Starbucks. Like, what does that mean? What should I do with that? So our program was designed to remove those barriers and really help people get over the finish line. And it's been a wild success. I think, obviously removing the cost barrier, not that there's not a cost, but removing the cost from the person pursuing education is huge, but it's not the only factor. There's plenty of programs out there that offer free or low cost opportunities. And there's still people who are like, oh, well, I don't have time, or I'm not sure how to get started. So I think we have some really incredible partners. We work with study.com and sophia.org. Our partner university is Thomas Edison, based in New Jersey. And they're all very focused on getting adults over the finish line and understanding that sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning is the best time to work on a class. That's just what works for you.
Right.
And the airline business is 24 hours. So we've got people on overnight shifts that have lulls in their shifts and can work on classes while they're on break. So the flexibility has been huge. But I would say the real magic happens in the coaching relationship. Every participant in the JetBlue Scholars Program is assigned a success coach. And my team of success coaches is, if you think I get fired up about this stuff, like the passion of the success coaches to support our population is unparalleled. Yeah. And I think, the development of that trust and our coaches having the credibility of saying, like, look, this is what you're bringing to the table and this is what you want to get out of this. So here's a few pathways that can get you there. What do you think the best decision is? That is, I think, the special sauce. So, there's so much new technology, and we make use of an outstanding learning management system. And I think there's the technology utilizing that to do some of the transactions and, the things that are easy. Like, yes, your deadline is this date, right? That's what we want to use the technology for. But at JetBlue Scholars, we never lose sight of the fact that the personal connection and that trust that's what makes it so that you can be strategic about your own education, is if you have that sounding board, you have someone to call if your kid gets sick and you can't take your exam the way that you thought you would. There's somebody that has your back. So I think that's a huge part of what we do. The JetBlue Scholars Program initially started as associate and bachelor's degrees. And that, of course, is still going strong. We've expanded into master's partnerships as well. Totally different model, but similar to what we've talked about, kind of removing the research obligation of, is this a legitimate school? Are they going to steal my money? What kind of outcome am I going to get from this? We've gone ahead and done that research and connected our crew members with these certain universities. And of course, we would love to expand and continue exploring our upskilling as well, which is, I think, has been a buzzword in the L&D community for several years, but with the pandemic and the economic impact of that has suddenly become far more urgent than it was. I think before it was like, yeah, this would be a great idea if we could do this, and now it's become mission critical. Like, no, we have roles to fill, there are gaps to fill here. So it's that's probably a longer answer than you wanted, but yeah, that's what we do in JetBlue Scholars.
Yeah, no, it's super. I think it gives people a really good understanding of exactly who it's aimed at, what the goals are. The success coaches, they're part of your team, so they're on. Yes. They sit on the JetBlue side. I think your point about that being the secret sauce, like I would say that resonates a lot with all the research and programs and offerings that I've ever been involved with or studied or whatever, because you say, go back to some of the research projects I was involved with at Gallup, and you say, what are some of the most important aspects of somebody's college experience? And by the way, it's not where you lived on campus and the social life you had. Like, I know that's a special part of the experience for some folks, but it's really about the kinds of relationships you had with a faculty or a mentor. And I was always blown away because, like, we think about faculty relationships and mentoring as things that happen very, like, only in person, right? And if they don't happen in person, it's not real. But what I've learned through models where you have intensive success coaching or advising, the relationships that those advisors build with their, student servicing counterpart are very meaningful. And I'll never forget, like, one of the universities that had the highest percentage of alumni who said they had a mentor who encouraged their goals and dreams, a very strongly worded statement, was an entirely online adult-only university. And you're like, well, wait a minute. An online adult university is beating everybody in the country on mentoring? The answer is yeah, because they had an intensive one-to-one advising model. So I get it. I mean, it sounds like you guys have done that. How soon into the program did you establish that that success coaching team?
So that was from day one. Bonnie, our founder, knew that she wanted some type of support mechanism and for it to be a real person. And that's one of the reasons that she brought me on, is because that's the world that I came from. The student services, making that connection, preventing people from slipping through the cracks. So we designed it around that research that you just mentioned, like the freshman year experience, like how to make sure, and it's, generally a more traditional age, but how do you make sure that someone persists in college and can develop that grit and eventually learn to do develop the confidence to do these things on their own. So that's been a huge part of the coaching. And I think, just today, my team was telling me stories of people that are graduating, were just certified for the December graduation term, who had been with us for several years and had many a conversation with their coach about, I don't think I can do it. And I think that there's, from a global perspective, as humans, we tell ourselves all kinds of stories, right? Whether they're true or false, but I think there's a lot of people who have started college and for whatever reason they couldn't continue. There's a narrative that develops there that is, then that's not for me. Or, I can't do that, or I don't deserve that, or I'm not good enough for that. And I think that's a huge part of that self-talk that our success coaches can address. And it's, to your point, it goes right along with all of that persistence research. And, how do I become successful in a higher education environment, whether it's online or in person? And that's having somebody to go to when your chips are down and you're not sure you can continue. So it's, they're pretty incredible. They're an incredible group.
And I assume, because I know part of the answer to this, but I'd love to, hear the gamut of, support they provided, right? Like, it goes beyond, I need some help with, some academic aspect of it. I mean, it's everything from, I've run into babysitting issues to, I mean, like, I remember I was in one of our Kaplan offices where we have, student service. It's like a pathways program for international students. And, before you go up into the student residences, like you walk in the lobby and you have to walk through our student services team. Like you cannot go anywhere until like they're up front, right? It's like first and foremost, like the most important thing you see is here's your student service team. Anyway, I was talking about some of the things that they had helped students with that day. And one of them was like, well, today I helped a young man because he lost his wallet. And I was like, okay. And she was like, he didn't know how to fill out a police report. He didn't know how to cancel his credit cards. He didn't know how to and I was like, so how did you know how to deal with that? And she goes, I don't know. I just tried to help. And like, that's the kind of stuff that comes up these amazing success coaches have to deal with. So I'm sure you guys have worked with every kind of issue that's been thrown at you.
Yes. I think you're part counselor, part academic advisor, part life coach, maybe, part cheerleader. And, we base a lot around support, empowerment, and accountability. Those are really our pillars that we've built the coaching program on. We want you to know that we think you can do it. And if what's coming up for you is that, your mom is sick and you have to take care of her and you think you're going to have to go on leave, like, let's see what we can do for you while you're on leave. Let's see what we can work around. Let's work with the benefits team and see how we can help you. So you're absolutely right. It's anything that comes up, whether it's as small as a lost wallet or I'm locked out of study.com. How do I reset my password? Like, that's all the things that come our coaches' ways, on top of, I'm thinking about changing my major. What would that look like? And, all of that support has to be there. And I think what's been really interesting is our coaching model has had to adjust because of COVID-19. Just like a lot of other companies, JetBlue has done some voluntary opt-out programs for people to take an extended unpaid leave or, to take a really nice package and make a decision to leave JetBlue. And I do say that it's difficult because I think the majority of people who left really truly did it as a sacrifice for JetBlue to keep us in business, quite frankly. So to be able to do that, we've been talking about some folks who have since followed up. Like if they opted out over the summer, they have followed up and said, I was able to get a job substitute teaching in my hometown because I have this degree and I wouldn't have had it otherwise. And that degree made it okay for me to step away when it was the right time to step away. So I think that's been, coaching someone out is not typically the purpose of an education as a benefit program. And I think, historically, the business imperative for this has been retention, a better educated workforce. People who participate in JetBlue Scholars absolutely transfer and get promoted at much higher rates than the typical population with the same amount of seniority under their belt. So I think, the business case is always there. And the business case has shifted this year because of the drastic reduction in demand. For us to be able to, we were able to be part of an opt-out package, which was really exciting for us, like to be able to support people who had made that difficult decision to leave made us feel really good just from like a moral imperative, like you're making this decision and we want to bend over backwards to say thank you for that. So, we've had some people who were able to make the decision to step away because of the access to the education that they got through JetBlue Scholars, and others who made the decision to go on a long-term leave so that they could get access. Wow. So it's been fascinating. And, my team and I were just discussing it this morning. And when we realized that was the role that we had filled in 2020, I think most of us got chills. We were like, that's not anything that we would have expected, but I mean, it's 2020. So
yeah, well, that's right. But those are really, really powerful stories, right? I mean, it's the application of this benefit in ways that you didn't quite imagine, right? Pre-pandemic, now that it's happened, you look back and go, in hindsight, it's like, Oh yeah, of course that happened, but like that wasn't expected. And it's not. I mean, the couple examples you just shared aren't exactly this, but several folks are talking about on the horizon much more of a emphasis on companies who provide education as a benefit for employees who are being laid off, right? Like an off ramp skilling program. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, if you're going to have to go through reductions or whatever it might be, why not have one of the benefits? I mean, we think about severance packages, right? Mm-hmm. Why not have, upskilling, reskilling, new skilling, whatever category term we want to use, part of that. And I think that's something we're going to see more of from various employers of all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, I hope so. I agree. And I hope so. It's, there are definitely companies out there now who are already doing it really well.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm very grateful that JetBlue has been so committed to no involuntary separations. So thankfully we have not had to go that route yet. Hopefully we won't ever. That's the goal. But I think, for companies that can't avoid it, I couldn't agree more. It's why wouldn't you want, if you're going to have to send this person out back into the world away from your company, give them another opportunity. You can just look at that differently. So absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you give them a fish they can eat for a day, teach them to fish, they eat for a lifetime example. And
yes.
I'm curious on, the program. One of the benefits, it seems to me, of doing college as part of an employer program is that I might actually be going through it with some of my best friends at work.
Yep.
Right. Or as a cohort. So I'm just curious if you have any stories or anecdotes about employees, crew members who have, done it together because they're buddies on the same shift.
Oh my gosh.
Like, hey, let's enroll. So I'm just curious about that.
Yes. We, those are everywhere. Yeah. It was an unexpected side effect that we did not anticipate, but has actually worked as an additional layer of support, I think, for our participants, which has been great. But we have one brother-sister team. So the brother and the sister both work at JetBlue. Cool. They do different things, but they would compete. They had the same coach. I believe they still have the same coach. Margot is their coach, and she. They would always ask what the other one was doing, and they wanted to be the coach's favorite. They wanted to be the person completing more classes. So the sibling dynamic became very competitive, and with their permission, she was able to kind of create these little challenges for them, and to that end, they were able to complete their degrees faster, which was great. We have the majority of our customer support function is based in Salt Lake City. And before the pandemic, when everyone was in the office, it's a very senior office. So it's, people that have been there 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, and have really deep relationships, to your point. And, there are groups of customer support folks there who are majoring in the same thing as their colleagues so that they can take the exact same classes at the same time and have the same coach. And, they were creating study groups, and one of the managers there, when she graduated, put up her Thomas Edison alumni sticker on the front of her office and, wanted other people to ask her about it. And it was, it's pretty phenomenal. And, people wanting to be at the same graduation ceremony as their best work friends. It's wonderful. I think the camaraderie of it is not something that you generally think of when you think of a completely online program, which is part of why the coaching is so important. But I think we had a bit of a community spring up around it. And since then, we've been working to support that and expand it, but it's really driven by the crew members. I think it's an indication of the culture at JetBlue as well. But it's, just because you're online doesn't mean you don't have a sense of community.
Right. Yeah, those are really cool examples. Because I've always thought it was strange that that universities in general, and even employers, don't make it more of a practice to offer like group enrollments, right? Like cohort enrollments family enrollments, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I know there's some universities that had cool things like where twins, can go there and, you pay one tuition and the other one gets it free.
Oh, wow.
I'm blanking on the colleges, but there's some colleges that have like a twin deal, right? Where it's like buy one, get one free. But like, you think about it, joining a company with a group of friends, joining, a new degree program, right? To kind of have that built-in support system from the beginning, especially if you're online, because it's not like you're going to matriculate to campus, meet friends in your dorm room, and voila, a new group, right? So it just seems like that's a natural outcome that I'm not surprised to hear, but it is really cool to hear the examples, the brother sister competition, and then the teams who are doing it together. That's really, really cool. I know you work with, different partners to make this program work. Obviously your internal team, but Thomas Edison and others. And what's been your experience investigating universities that might be a partner, collaborating with them? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you've had great collaboration with the partners you have, but, there's this big question, to what degree are universities really trying to actively pursue employer partnerships like this? Some are really aggressively pursuing it, doing a great job. Others, they're just not ready for it. I'm just curious where you think the state of affairs is from what you've experienced and what you've investigated.
Absolutely. I think, Thomas Edison was a natural choice for us simply because they are a degree completion university and their policies worked incredibly well with our model. And at the time that we started, that was very rare, sadly, very rare. There's a couple other institutions in the space that do it, but, we're seeing now that some colleges are getting really creative. So they may not have the ability to take on quite as many transfer credits, but they can give a deal on tuition to make it so that the residency requirement that you do have to meet is still very affordable. So we are seeing people break out of their boxes that they have to be in order to maintain their accreditation and whatnot. And I think some of the more progressive ones were doing full degree programs online versus only hybrid programs or only certificate programs online. We have a partnership with the City University of New York, and we offer some of their fully online master's programs, and they are very excited at looking into the fully online bachelor's degree space as well, which is, it's nice to see that it's starting to trickle into the undergraduate space as well. I think the graduate area the graduate landscape has been more friendly to online learning in the past.
Right.
But, what we're seeing is through our master's pathways and looking to expand partnerships for undergrad, we're finding that we have more options. With some creativity on our side and some willingness by the higher education institution, it's exciting. And I think to see colleges leverage brand partnerships especially is exciting. It's
right.
Like you said, they don't have to go out and market to that student who's coming to them from JetBlue, because the JetBlue crew member trusts that JetBlue would not partner with someone who, is going to close up shop in the middle of the night and run away with your transcripts and all your tuition dollars, right?
Right.
So I would say I like the way that it's going. Like Western Governors is another one we were just talking before we went live here. Extremely progressive. Golden Gate University out in San Francisco is coming up with some really exciting opportunities. We're partnered with LSU Shreveport for their fully online MBA, like the most affordable MBA in the country. And it's, just in terms of the bigger picture here, which is equity, that really goes a long way. So, when we look for a partner, we want to make sure that our values line up. We're not interested in saddling our crew members with a lifetime worth of debt to get a $200,000 master's degree, right?
Right.
So it's, I think between pricing and availability online and being willing to get creative around residency requirements and what those fees look like and what that might look like for an online student or an international student or anyone non-traditional. I'm seeing a lot in that direction. And I think even more, I would love to see the Coursera's of the world, the Udemy's, the places where all this content resides. That's LinkedIn Learning is another one. All this incredible content where you can get these certifications and you can build the skill, but Coursera is coming up with guided projects and these academies that you can really dig in and demonstrate your skill, as opposed to, okay, well, now I have a badge on my LinkedIn.
Right.
Right. It's like, well, what does that badge mean to someone who might want to hire you? So, if you're able to do a demonstration of that work, then that's even more exciting and becomes a lot more meaningful. And I think, that's the direction I would like to see it go. I would like to see that expand into the university partnerships as well. Like this, maybe Western Governor says to Coursera, yes, we'll accept that as credit in our computer science degree. So it's stackable.
Right.
And it's not just one thing. I think a lot of this learning can be more than one thing if we just let it be.
Yeah. Well, I'm encouraged. I mean, it's actually a perfect note to end on because we have burned through 30 minutes in like 7, I think. But I mean, you've given a really encouraging, synopsis of what's happening with the universities that you guys have investigated working with, right? They're becoming more flexible. They're working with partners more, and let's face it, they're working to serve students better. In the midst of that, right? That's ultimately what both JetBlue is trying to do and an LSU Shreveport or a Thomas Edison. So I think the combination of the employer and university trying to be accountable to the success of the student on both ends, right, is a huge win-win. So anyway, I'm excited to keep following your work. I know you are following the work of others out there. So I hope those who are listening today, connect with Nicole. Make sure you make a new friend on LinkedIn today.
Yes.
And again, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to staying in touch. Thanks everybody for joining us today.
Thanks, Brandon.